What is going on, Headliner Nation? Hopefully everyone's doing well out there today. We're talking about quarterback and tight end rankings here for week 13. Now, this will be our last publicly dropped rankings video here for the week, but for you members, don't forget, you got flex rankings, kicker rankings, and defense rankings that'll be out shortly. Now, if you're out there sitting and wondering, I want to get those rankings too, it's super simple. Just hit the join button right here underneath the video. You'll become an official member of Headliner Nation. You get access to Discord, additional rankings, additional videos, members-only live streams on Sunday mornings. There's tons of perks, plus you get to enter the most non-toxic fantasy football community there is in the industry. But now is the time to dive into the rankings. Let's talk about our top 24 quarterbacks in a week with 6 teams on bye. Got some different names in different places, but we're kicking it off number 1 this week with Tua. And right off the bat, people may think I'm getting a little bit too cute, but I'm really not trying to. It's the matchup against Washington. It's that good. Washington has one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, you know Tua already has a super high ceiling. Now, a lot of people are looking forward in the weather forecast, and they're seeing there's a potential for rain in this matchup. As of right now, it's like a 50-50 chance, and I don't know how it is where you live, but where I live, the only thing that is more wrong than a quote-unquote fantasy expert is a weatherman, so we wait and find out this weekend what's going to be going on during that game. But until then, I still got Tua at number 1. Number 2 is Jalen Hurts of the Eagles, and probably the game I'm looking forward to the most this weekend, going up against San Francisco. Yes, another game we're watching with some weather concerns, still a 50-50 chance, but Jalen Hurts produced just fine in a torrential downpour last week. Even though he's going up against San Francisco, they are much easier to throw on than they are to run on, so Jalen Hurts is at number 2. Number 3, it's Patrick Mahomes of the Chiefs in a matchup going up against the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay. And even though we haven't seen the ceiling that we've seen the past couple years, he's going out there each and every week giving you 18 to 20 fantasy points. Number 4, it's Dak Prescott, Thursday Night Football going up against Seattle. A great matchup and arguably the hottest quarterback in football right now, so he's sitting at number 4. Number 5, it's Brock Do-'em Dirty Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers in that matchup going up against Philly. Philly allows points in bunches through the air, and we know this offense is fully healthy in San Francisco. Yes, we're watching the rain, but as of right now, Brock Purdy all the way up to number 5. Number 6, it's Sam Howell, and he's got that matchup going up against Miami at home there in Washington. We already know that each and every week, Sam Howell basically has to throw until his arm falls off because his defense does him no favors, and he's always playing from behind. I expect the same against Miami, so he's at number 6. Number 7, it's CJ Stroud of the Houston Texans in a difficult matchup, which is still weird to say, but yes, it's a difficult matchup going up against Denver. This Denver team, one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now, and the defense is playing great. We've really seen CJ Stroud excel down the field to Tank Dell and Nico Collins. Nico could struggle this week, though, being opposite of Patrick Surtain, who's basically been like a shutdown corner here for the past few weeks of the season, so I got CJ Stroud at number 7. Number 8, it's Kyler Murray on the road in Pittsburgh. But just like always, the part that gives Kyler the safer floor is the rushing upside. Didn't really gain much yardage last week, but found his way into the end zone for his 3rd straight game with a rushing touchdown. I got him at number 8. Number 9, it's Justin Herbert on the road going up against the New England Patriots. A great matchup for Herbert. His biggest issue, doesn't have a whole lot of people to throw the ball to still. If he could get one more weapon in this offense, he's probably a top 5 guy weekly, but right now he's got Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler, and that's really just about it. Justin Herbert sitting at number 9. Number 10, it's T-Law. Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars playing Monday Night Football going up against Cincinnati. A great opportunity to go out there in primetime football and showcase what this offense can do. An offense that's looked way better the last 2 weeks of the season coming out of their bye week. They're finally utilizing Calvin Ridley, and that is definitely raising the ceiling of Trevor Lawrence, so he's at number 10. Number 11, it's Jared Goff going up against the New Orleans Saints. Not the easiest of matchups, but what's really limited Jared Goff for the most part this season is the success of the running game. It's really brought down his ceiling, but he's still finding the end zone multiple times per week. He needs to cut down on the turnovers. He's been racking them up over the last few weeks of the season, but he still remains a safe floor quarterback. Got him at number 11. Number 12, it's Jordan Love, a quarterback that nobody wants to give any love to. Now, he's got a super difficult matchup going up against Kansas City, but he's going to be at home, and he's going to have to be utilizing the passing game because the running game is banged. It's perma-banged up in Green Bay with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Jordan Love showing a lot of success in this passing game. I got him at number 12. 13, it's Russell Wilson, Denver Broncos in that matchup going up against Houston. Now, Russ is really odd from a fantasy perspective because we really haven't seen much of a ceiling from him, but his floor is one of the safest in fantasy football. He's almost a lock to score 15 fantasy points a week. But now in a decent matchup going up against Houston, I got him at 13. 14, it's Gardner Minshew of the Indianapolis Colts in a good matchup going up against Tennessee. Plus, we know they're not going to have Jonathan Taylor, which typically leads to a little bit more passing volume. That's why Gardner Minshew's at 14. 15, it's the Bake Show. Baker Mayfield dealing with an ankle injury right now, and not the easiest of matchups going up against Carolina, but they're going to be at home in Tampa Bay, and you know that's where Mike Evans feasts, so I got Baker Mayfield right now at 15. 16, Matthew Stafford, a very difficult matchup going up against Cleveland, and it's apparent that his top two wide receiving threats in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are not 100% healthy. We're not going to get 2 receiving touchdowns a week from Tyler Higbee and Kyron Williams, so I got Matthew Stafford at 16. 17 is Geno Smith in that Thursday night football game going up against the Dallas Cowboys. Not an easy matchup going up against Dallas, especially when you have to travel to Dallas. What's really crazy though is right now none of the wide receivers in Seattle are even inside the top 30 at the position in fantasy football. Geno in 2023 does not equal Geno in 2022, so he's at 17. 18, it's Derek Carr, the New Orleans Saints, and honestly, he may drop even further, but it's not so much due to Derek Carr or his matchup against Detroit. It's that we don't even know if he's going to have anybody to throw the ball to here this weekend. Chris Olave, still questionable. Rashid Shaheed, still questionable. And if he doesn't have them on the field, I'm sorry, A.T. Perry and Keith Kirkwood, not enough, got Derek Carr at 18. Number 19, it's Desmond Ridder of the Atlanta Falcons. Difficult matchup going up against the Jets. When you think about the passing attack of Atlanta, you think about Drake London. Well, he's going to be covered in sauce this weekend, and we already know this offense doesn't overly utilize Kyle Pitts. Plus, the Jets are way easier to run on than they are to throw on, so expect a lot of running in Atlanta. Got Desmond Ridder at 19. 20, it's Kenny Pickett of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh coming off one of their best offensive games in years, and yet Kenny Pickett couldn't even break 12 fantasy points. Sure, he's got a great matchup going up against Arizona at home in Pittsburgh, but until we really see him put up a ceiling game, Kenny Pickett just deserves to be right down here in the top 20, right around number 20. Number 21, it's Will Levis of the Tennessee Titans in a matchup going up against Indianapolis. Will Levis has been pretty inconsistent for the most part, but he has shown flashes of having the potential to be a solid fantasy football producer. In a week in which we have 6 teams on bye, guys that we're using every week like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Justin Fields, even Josh Dobbs, it's gonna force a couple of these guys up a little bit higher. That's why Will Levis is at 21. 22 is Bryce Young. He's got a matchup going up against Tampa Bay, a great matchup, but how does this team really respond to the firing of their coaching staff? It's not like they're magically going to be great. Bryce Young's getting sacked over 4 times a game. He's struggling to push the ball down the field, and then last week they forgot they even had Adam Thielen on their roster, so Bryce Young's at 22. 23 is Jake Browning. He's got that matchup on Monday Night Football going up against Jacksonville, and honestly, Jake Browning isn't a bad quarterback, and he could get T. Higgins back this week, but in a primetime matchup against a Jags team that's on fire right now, I have some concerns, so he's at 23. And then 24, this is where I'm putting Bailey Zappi. Now, it sounds like he's going to be the starting quarterback this week for the New England Patriots. Do I love it? No, absolutely not, but he does have a great matchup going up against the Chargers, who allow points in bunches to opposing quarterbacks, so I got Bailey Zappi for right now at number 24. And that's going to wrap up the top 24 quarterback rankings, but now we got to talk about some tight ends, so we're throwing it over to Kyle.
Yo, what is going on, headliners? For next fantasy season, I think I'm going to be out there leading the charge that we really take a look at the tight end position and try to fix how it's utilized within fantasy football. Because quite honestly, once you get past the first several guys in the rankings, it's a crapshoot any given week. And there's not even really 10 tight ends that you take a look at that you can trust on a weekly basis. So for me, let's eliminate the tight end position in fantasy sports and instead have like 3 flex spots. And you could put a tight end in any of those flex spots if you wanted to. And we also do tight end premium, meaning if you get a catch, it's an extra half a point over whatever you have as your normal scoring. So if you are in a half PPR league, tight ends get a full PPR. If you are in a full PPR league, tight ends get 1.5 PPR. So let's have that conversation over the offseason, and we'll see if we can get the industry headed in the right direction. But for now, it doesn't matter. If you need to start a tight end, I've got my top 18 tight ends this week, and a few touchdown dependent players that if you're just looking to take a stab at somebody, maybe they would be worth it. But let's hop right into it. Travis Kelce, I know he hasn't been the highest upside scoring tight end that we're used to, but he's still the safest in football. And number 1, going up against Green Bay, Travis Kelce. Not the ceiling that we would like the last few weeks here, but still one of the safest floors outside TJ Hawkinson at the tight end position. George Kittle, we talk about it all the time. The highest upside at the position outside of Travis Kelce, and unfortunately, he's going to put up some duds as well. But Philadelphia's secondary is not very good this year, and they give up a ton of receiving yards. So George Kittle could absolutely get back on track with a huge week this week. Sam Laporta at number 3 going up against New Orleans will be a little bit of a tougher defense that they're facing this week than what they've seen in previous weeks, but Sam Laporta has a good red zone opportunity once again for Detroit. We haven't seen him get the receiving yards that we would have liked over the last few weeks. Not bad. Not his ceiling though. Hasn't reached 50 here in a few weeks, but the touchdown upside will still be there with him. Evan Ingram going up against Cincinnati. Now, this might be one of the best matchups that Evan Ingram gets all year long, allowing the defense that allows the 3rd most fantasy points to the tight end position. Evan Ingram has not scored yet this season. I'm going to lock him in for a touchdown on Monday Night Football. David Njoku at number 5. Over the last 3 weeks, he has seen 9, 12, and 9 targets. One of the safest floors at the position right now. Maybe not the upside that I would like because we really don't know what's going on at the quarterback position, but whatever it is, I feel like David Njoku is going to be utilized quite a bit again this week. Dalton Schultz going up against Denver, the team that allows the most fantasy points to the tight end position. Dalton Schultz would be a good bet to find his way into the end zone once again this week. Trey McBride at 7, Pat Freiermuth at 8. I've got these guys back to back, and they are in the same game this week. And while they both have had some great opportunities as of recent, especially Pat Freiermuth in his game last week, they both have a tough matchup. Trey McBride against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh allows the 7th fewest fantasy points to tight ends. When you look at Pat Freiermuth versus Arizona, yeah, Pat Freiermuth is coming off of a big week. And yes, I know Tyler Higbee had 2 touchdowns against Arizona last week, but they still allow the 9th fewest fantasy points to the tight end position. So while I don't think either of these guys have the ceiling that we've seen from them this year recently, I still believe that they both will have a really nice floor. For Jake Ferguson at number 9 on Thursday Night Football, if you were to say, Kyle, let's lock in Jake Ferguson for 7 targets this week, he would actually probably be up at tight end 5 for me. But I really just don't see where the Dallas Cowboys have a consistent game plan with him. If he's the main guy in the game plan, he's the main guy right behind CeeDee Lamb. But there's other weeks where Brandon Cooks has kind of become the number 2, and they're still slinging it to other wide receivers. Me personally, with Jake Ferguson this week, I'm hoping that Devin Witherspoon stays over on Brandon Cooks. CeeDee Lamb is probably not going to see him rotate coverage with him, and they typically play more zone than anything, but keep Devin Witherspoon over by the wide receivers. And if that happens, then Jake Ferguson might have an opportunity to see a few more targets this week. I would really love to go higher with him. So if you're watching this right now and you're like, Jake Ferguson at 9, he should be higher, I agree. He should be higher. Have a talk with Mike McCarthy and tell him to make a more consistent game plans around Jake Ferguson. This is what I call the Taysom Hill line. Taysom Hill at number 10. Anybody that's ranked above Taysom Hill is a guy that I look at with a fair amount of consistency and or safety mixed with a nice bit of high upside. Then you've got Taysom Hill, who is essentially all upside. There's really nothing else about it other than that, because he's going to win you weeks or he's going to lose you weeks at the tight end position. And then everybody else after that doesn't have a really great ceiling, and they're very risky to find a decent floor any single week. Taysom Hill at number 10. He's that guy against Detroit. We'll see what happens in terms of pass catching, because I don't know. Chris Olave's banged up right now, still in the concussion protocol as of this recording. MT's been hurt. Rashid Shaheed's been hurt. Let's get Taysom Hill going this week. If he gets targets, he's a top 10 option. If he doesn't get targets, then you're really hoping for a rushing touchdown. And number 11, Gerald Everett. Same thing with the Chargers right now. They're kind of beat up all over the place, and because of that, it opens up a good opportunity for Gerald Everett going up against New England. Juwan Johnson, we just talked about him with Taysom Hill a second ago. Now, Juwan Johnson, depending on who is in, who is out this week, could end up having a safer floor than Taysom Hill, even if Taysom Hill has a higher upside. Juwan Juwan Johnson may also have a little bit of a safer floor than what Gerald Everett does, but I'm willing to go with Gerald Everett with the touchdown potential. For Juwan Johnson, I'm going to have to wait and make a more educated decision once I know a little bit more about who's going to be missing for New Orleans this week. Cade Otton at number 13, good matchup going up against Carolina here. May not see a touchdown, may not have that type of upside, but definitely could see around 5 targets this week. Logan Thomas, basically the same thing. He's going to give you 4 or 5 catches for around 45, 50 yards. He's going to have a nice floor for you, but he doesn't really score a whole lot of touchdowns, and because of that, he doesn't have the highest ceiling in the world. Tyler Higbee at number 15. Not a huge fan of Tyler Higbee going up against Cleveland this week. But once again, when you take a look at a team with a lot of wide receivers dealing with injuries right now, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, both not 100% healthy, it could lead to some extra targets for Tyler Higbee. Kyle Pitts at number 16 going up against the New York Jets. Yuck, absolutely hate it. I don't want anything to do with it. Chiggy Oko going up at number 7 against Indianapolis. We've seen one good game. I really don't know how we're going to try to play Chiggy Oko because we got one good game from him. I'm not really willing to risk that just yet. Tanner Hudson at number 18 really tried to speak it into existence last week, but they have 2 other tight ends that they're rotating in and out with him. And really, that's how it works here with the top 18 this week. You've got the Taysom Hill line, 1 through 9. If you have any of those guys, you're feeling pretty good about it. Then you've got Taysom Hill, you're hoping for all the upside. Then when you take a look at number 11, Gerald Everett, through number 18, Tanner Hudson, you really have no idea what you're going to get. You might get a couple of points, might get 10 points. Maybe you get 12 points, but really outside of that, you're just hoping for 5, 6, 7 targets. They catch all of them and maybe they score. And that leads me to the outside looking in now, because when you take a look at guys like Adam Troutman, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Tucker Kraft, Donald Parham, Tyler Conklin, all of these guys are touchdown dependent plays, meaning that if you're trying to scramble for somebody at the last minute, a lot of times if you score a touchdown at the tight end position, you're going to be a top 12 tight end, or you're going to be right outside of it. And that's what all of these guys are. You're hoping for a touchdown. If they don't get it, it's not going to be enough to be worthy of starting. But if they do get it, you'll probably get top 12 numbers out of them. So if you're looking for touchdown upside, these are the guys that I would recommend that you take a look at. All right, Headliner Nation, hopefully you all are feeling really good about your lineups this week. Make sure you get them locked in, ready to roll for Thursday Night Football, and hopefully our rankings were able to help you out in determining your lineup just a little bit this week. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get out of here. Hit your like button on the way out. Hit the bell notification as well, so you always know when we've got new content dropping or we're going live. For now, though, have a great day, Headliner Nation. Stay safe and healthy, and I'll catch you all on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.